So hello everyone and welcome to our Connected Kinesiologist meetup on Monday, March the 22nd. Thank you very much for joining me. And this evening we thought we would chat about branding, marketing, positioning yourself in this crazy, noisy market, and how to choose your ideal client, where to focus your time and your energy, and then how to best get that message out about who you really want to work with above all others. So I'm Angela Pereira. I'm the co-administration or administrator, I guess, of Connected Kinesiologists together with Rebecca Adaman, and she is a PhD student working on knowledge exchange between research and practice at McGill. And so she is doing her study thing, and I am doing the hosting thing while she works away at her program. I am the owner of First Line Education, a continuing education company for all movement therapists with a definite passion for kinesiologists, since that's been my background for about 30 years. I work with private clients who are very elderly. So my youngest client is 73 and my eldest is 93. So I've got about a 20-year sweet spot in there of people that I really like to work with. I was just showing my sisters, who I was on the call with before this, that this was a book just given to me by one of my clients who just finished writing this book, and he's 93. So he just published his first book at 93, and he's going to give me the manuscript for his second book, which is going to be published later this year. So there's some perspective for you as you jump into your careers. So I'm just going to pass this around to each of you so you can introduce yourselves, because a big part of what we're doing is networking so that you can expand all the different people that you have easy access to through our group. Mary Jane, do you want to say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Mary Jane. I'm a registered kinesiologist. I left my job a few months ago, and I have two young kids, so that's kind of keeping me busy now, but I'm looking at doing something on my own.
Oh, cool.
And I'm just trying to figure out what that is. So I'm just trying to talk to as many people as I can, try to see what other people have been enjoying doing.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's great. What kind of clients would you like to work with? What kind of business vision do you have?
I'm really just trying to see what options are all out there for now.
Oh,
I really don't. I haven't zoned in one area.
yeah. Oh, amazing. Okay, let's see if we
Yeah.
can figure out something. That'll be fun.
Mhm.
And Danny, hello.
Hey Angela, we meet again.
Yes, we meet again.
Well, I'm Danny. I'm a fourth year kin student in sports management over at Western. I actually graduate in a couple weeks, so
Woo.
yeah. Let's see. Right now I'll be working with a sports camp during the summer. I'll be like an activity specialist and kind of looking after different kinds of sports. Since sporting is my main background. Let's see. I'm more on the management side, so that's why I chose counseling because it's kind of the best of both worlds. And yeah, that's about it. I'm looking to possibly write the exam this upcoming September or maybe next April, depending if they keep postponing it or not.
That was quite
Yeah,
a
so we'll see.
surprise. Yeah, I called
Mm-hmm.
the college and I said, "What the heck? We've got like all these students in our exam prep course, and they're going, what the heck?" And they said the Ministry of Health has just advised them to cancel the exam because of the management of everything and everybody. So they'll give the people that are about to write about a month's notice before, as they set the date, they'll have about a month before they have to write, and it'll definitely be before September. That's all they know, or that's all they were telling me at the time. So that's as much as we know. So they'll just send out an announcement to everybody in Ontario once they know of a new date. So
In
you
that
may
case,
have time.
probably April.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it could be. It could be. That's right. Exactly. So Danny, you have an interesting project that we chatted about. Do you want to talk about that for a second, or is
Oh
that
yeah.
kind of under wrap? Yeah,
No,
that's
no,
a
no,
really cool
no.
thing. No?
I'm
Okay.
actually working on it, yeah, this week. So I'm taking an entrepreneurship class this year for clinical kinesiology. And the idea I had come up with was about teaching exercise professionals how to treat youth, just because it seems that there's a quite a big gap between like working with like performance people versus working with kids who are obviously developing. And actually, interestingly enough, when I did the market research, the problem wasn't that they didn't know how to train them. It's more that they don't know how to talk to them and they don't know how to keep them motivated. Those were the two biggest things. And then the last one was applying the training principles to that demographic. So I'm working to see if potentially a course or something like that could be offered to different professionals, such as kins or physios or sports specific trainers, kind of in that stream that's not sports specific coaching, and then kind of just helping them to better serve our younger population.
That's a great niche. That's amazing. Yeah, yeah, you definitely found a need there. So yeah, I was really happy to hear you say this is exactly what I'm looking at. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Very good, very good. Hey, Carrie, how are you?
Good.
Good.
So we're just doing introductions. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, we're just doing intros. You're pretty quiet there. Do you have your mic on okay?
Let me change it. Let's see. Is that better?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Perfect.
very good.
Uh, okay, so my name's Carrie. I'm a kinesiologist in Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario. I work with a variety of different populations, mostly seniors and people who have neurological things going on, so like stroke, MS, things like that. Also fascial stretch therapy and senior wellness on a general basis. Yeah.
That's great. And so how do you find your clients, Carrie?
Like what do you mean?
How do your clients come to you? Do
Oh,
you
how do I
have,
right?
yeah, where do you
Say.
get your referrals from?
So I used to work with a couple other kins within a different company, and then that company folded, and so I absorbed all of those clients. So a good base of my clients came from that. But the my other clients have either been word of mouth or physiotherapists who were seeing them through Lynn, and
Mhm.
that they only get like 3 to 5. 5 is like you had a lot of visits with 5 with them,
Wow.
and then they would refer to me to continue on seeing them for exercise.
Oh, nice. That's great. You got a nice pipeline there.
Yeah.
That's
I used
great.
to work in long-term care, so the physio OT, that group there, I made lots of connections with those physios and OTs, which and some of them work with the Lynn, and that's how I um, have connected with them.
Oh, very good. And you're in business with private clients, or do they have some source of funding for you?
I'm mostly private. I have a couple whose their insurance covers kin, but it's very few and far in between.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Catherine, hello.
Hi. Okay, yeah, my name's Catherine. I'm a registered kinesiologist in Sarnia. Right now I'm working at a physio clinic and I help out with the GLAD program and I see some arthritis patients on the side. And I'm actually right now working towards becoming bone fit certified. So hopefully
Oh, very good.
some osteoporosis patients will be worked in shortly. And I also teach a virtual exercise class for older adults through Connected Chain in Markham. So
Oh, cool. You connected with John Bhakti. That's great.
yeah, through this group. So that was great.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
Good, good. Yeah. So networking landed you some work.
it did. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really
Oh,
nice.
nice. Very, very good. So you're going to be, yeah, a double threat with GLAD and Bone Fit. That's great.
I hope so. Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. And this is your first year of practice?
Yeah, I graduated about a year ago. Wrote the exam in September. I guess I just snuck in before like all the cancellations started, and then I
Yeah,
just became registered in like December, I think it was. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, wow. So yeah, brand new, like 3 months new. That's great.
Yeah.
Very good. You've landed on your feet, I think. Sure sounds
I
like it.
like to think so, but a lot
Yeah,
to learn still. So
yeah, yeah. No, that's great. That's great. You've got yourself well set up, I think. It's really good. Really good.
yeah.
Very good. Christiane, hello.
Hi, yes, my name is Christiane. I work as a kinesiologist in a long-term care home as part of the falls prevention team. Plus, I also kind of coordinate a lot of the allied therapies. I also work part-time in teaching seniors. I do wellness lectures. I run an online kin clinic. I teach an exercise class, and then on the side, I'm working on kind of building my own kind of seniors fitness business. So kind of trying to juggle a couple
Nice.
of things at once.
Very, very good. Very good. So there's a common theme with older adults for many of us here. And then kids, and then Mary Jane is like, find me a market, guys. I'm open. So yeah, really, really good. So when you're thinking about your own niche, your own kind of brand and where you want to land, what are some of the things that you think about? Is there anything that has gone into very consciously focusing on a market, or are you kind of testing out different markets and your client base evolves to be older adults or kids? What's kind of driving some of those decisions, if they are decisions? I guess they are decisions, whether they're active or passive, they're still decisions. So what's going through your mind as you kind of concentrate? Yeah, Danny.
Well, I actually, well, since I went through the exercise of kind of finding the market really recently, something that I did through the market research, actually scratch that, oh back paddle, give to context. So when I sent out the survey, I thought that it would be more appealing for the professionals themselves to invest in it. But turns out from the survey, I found out that it was actually, they would be more interested if their employer offered it. So that's kind of how I
Oh,
started pivoting towards the business, like business to business, as opposed to direct to the therapists themselves. I mean, obviously, it could be offered also to the therapist, but it was to the business that they wanted it. So I was like, huh, interesting. And then at first, actually, I thought that it would be more appealing to sports specific, but then after asking them, a lot of them were kin. So that's when I started thinking about other people who would also impact the younger demographic that wasn't necessarily through the sport, but through outside of sport. So that's kind of how it happened, kind of by accident, but I just asked people through different channels kind of what they thought about it.
yeah, yeah. So really interesting. So do you think that the kinesiologist kind of pushed back to you and said, we want our employers to support this
Yes.
training? And do you think that was because the kins really felt that the employers needed to take responsibility for training, or do you think it was a financial decision that the kins said, we need the employers to be bringing the training to us as staff members, for example?
Think it was a mix of both because some people did say that they would be interested in investing themselves, but then the people who were reluctant was because of financial, like that was kind of their barrier. So it's
Mhm.
kind of more that it would be offered under like a greater fund from the business that they're like licensed to it.
Right,
So
right.
it was a bit of both.
Yeah. This is something we notice a lot, that employers, one of those benefits that we try to ask for, and what makes very interesting employers is those employers that help to invest in our education. So it would make a lot of sense that an employer would pay a licensing fee to you, Danny, or they would purchase a group program that you would then come in and teach, something like that, to provide the employees that kind of skill. So that makes a lot of sense that they would do that. It makes also sense from an employer's perspective because they know that all of their staff has similar training. So they have some control over quality and breadth of the training. Yeah,
And it
interesting.
actually, now that I remember, it was also the age because a lot of them were recent grads. So they obviously still have loans to pay back. So they wouldn't want to
Yeah.
spend even more money to do extra courses when they're already working. So that's also
Yeah.
why they wanted to do the business.
It takes 3 to 5 years, I think, to get your feet on the ground. And I think for people to assume that it should happen faster, let it happen in its own time. And I think that give it space, give it oxygen, give it time to marinate, and you'll find your way. And I think sometimes we don't know enough and we're pushing in places where things just have to germinate by themselves and you need to just gather experience and network. And once you reach that 3 to 5 year mark, all of a sudden, I think Christiane, you would also say to this, you end up all of a sudden with this network and you've worked with an employer or two maybe, and you've sort of started to focus on really what you like to do because we don't have these experiences at school. So you're going to be testing the marketplace in real time, and that's perfectly fine. Yeah. Carrie, how did you decide on your niche? Was it something that was very deliberate, or was it something that when your previous employer folded their company, the client base you took over just happened to be older clients?
Yeah, it just kind of fell upon me. So when I was
Yeah.
in university, I would say was probably between third and fourth year. I talked to one of my sister's friends had just graduated from a kin program. So I talked to her and I asked her like, where should I get a summer job to like get some experience? And she said, well, I'm working as a PTA in retirement homes and we're looking for someone to do a little bit of coverage or whatever. So you can come work with us. So I just kind of fell into that. So then that was working with seniors in retirement homes, so not long-term care yet. And then after I graduated, the physiotherapist who I was working under said, like, if you want to come back, like this job is open for you. And
Right.
so then I continued with them. And then once I kind of got to the end of my rope on that one, then I applied for a PTA position in long-term care. And then that's how I got into long-term care and working with other physiotherapists and then occupational therapists and all that. And then, so I met the kinesiologist while I was volunteering at a clinic. And the clinic, it was a neuro clinic, and they were having a kin class for people who, I think they all had experienced a stroke. So they're coming in to do a group class for exercise and things like that. So then from so that's kind of how I fell into seniors, and then how I fell kind of into the neuro part of it was I found that volunteer position through a gymnastics coach that used to coach me, and then I coached with her. So it's just like finding all of these paths and connections and people, and so
Yeah.
I never really deliberately found my niche. It just kind of fell on my lap and I really enjoyed it. So I just kind of stuck with it.
Nice. That's great.
Hmm.
So anyone else making some very deliberate choices? Hey, Katie, long time no see. Katie and I spent the weekend together in my posture balancing gait course. Anyone else do any, well, maybe Katie, do you want to say hello and just introduce yourself? We were just talking about how people were finding their client niche and whether they fell into it or whether they made some deliberate choices. So you don't have to answer that part of the question yet if you don't want, but tell us a bit about who you are, where you are, and what kind of work you're doing.
Okay. Hi, I'm Katie. I am in Brantford, and I work primarily with seniors, doing falls prevention. And then I'm also hoping to get a little bit more into neuro rehab as well for those with Parkinson's and stroke. So I use primarily just exercise therapy to train both the brain and body, improve overall independence. How I got into this niche. Sort of my fourth year university and the year following graduation, I volunteered with a program that was a kind of just a general fitness program for those with neurological conditions. So that's kind of how I got exposed to those populations and just really, really loved it. Found it really rewarding and knew that that was something I wanted to eventually get into. Finding a job specifically for that was quite tough, which is why now I own my own business. I didn't clarify that part. I've started my own business, so that's why I want to kind of take my business in that direction to kind of create that job for myself. And then kind of along the way after grad, I also got a part-time job teaching group falls prevention classes for seniors, and also just really enjoyed that. So that's kind of how I got to the niche that I am in now. Long
Right,
story short, I
right.
guess.
Well, that's great. I think that whole falls prevention niche is huge. And we were looking at some stats over the weekend and just appreciated how huge the need is for falls prevention programs. So that might be something that could be an interesting side class that you offer. And we learned that your ability to balance starts to decline at age 30. Yeah. So that was really surprising. And yeah, some of the stats around falls are pretty startling. So that could be something that if you specifically use the words fall prevention in your marketing, if you do work with the older population, that would be something that would really catch people's eye, I think. That would be pretty critical. Anyone else? Um, Christiane, did you make any very deliberate career moves to find yourself where you are? Or again, did you just kind of follow the yellow brick road and that's where it led you?
Yeah, definitely was not intentional. I did my master's at U of T, and then during that, somebody asked about, there was a volunteer position to help with a research study for strength training for older women, for senior women. And when I was the baseline tester, it was just really interesting to like just be there and talk to them about like their life experience. And it was really nice because I was able to actually like connect with them. And even a lot of times, sometimes somebody would say that this person, oh, they're not very chatty, or they might give you some attitude or whatever, but just be mindful. And I was always able to find something to talk to them about, and it was just really, really nice to talk to them in that sense. And then I worked in a clinic for a bit, and then I got hired at my current part-time position as a falls prevention instructor, and just kind of my position within that company kind of grew. So it's been kind of interesting to at this point be working in the long-term care and in independent care, because I'm always reminding the people in independent care is like, listen, I like the LTC job, but you don't have to be here. So here's why all of this stuff is so important. So I think it does give me some credibility when I'm talking to community seniors about, listen, like I know what literally goes on in here, and you don't want to have to be here if you don't have to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. It's really tough to see people make that transition to long-term care. And I just went through that with another client of mine whose wife moved into long-term care, I guess March the 1st. And she has Alzheimer's, which was just getting worse and worse. And she's 72, he's 73. So having to move her was really something. So he the very next week he was like, okay, Angela, let's go. And I'm like, let's go in about a month from now. So we're just going to keep you happy, keep you generally active. No, I've got to lose 50 pounds. I've got to do, yep, it's on the agenda, but just settle down and relax and rest for a bit, because you just went through huge amount of trauma, and you both need some space and time to figure this out. And our work in nutrition is not going to be successful when your sympathetic nervous system is like at 11. So can you just get used to your new routine of going to see your wife every day, an hour commute each way to go and see her? You spend a couple of hours with her. Yeah, so that's half a day. So let's maybe talk about your own self-care schedule first before we even talk about weight loss and goals and everything else. Let's just get you into a routine that feels healthy, that gives you some time for yourself. And you need to go every day? Could you go every second day? We'll get into that conversation a little later. So Yeah, very tough to watch people transition through that. Very, very tough.
I
Mary
have a
Jane, yeah,
question.
sure.
What does the fall prevention class look like?
Usually, I mean, everybody's different from what I've noticed because I've gotten the chance to observe a lot of people do falls prevention. For me, I tend to do kind of a lot of lower body strengthening and a lot of like single leg stance and footwork as well.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I've never seen one of those classes, so I was very curious.
Yeah, yeah. It's just for me, number one thing are like squats and ankle movements, just because they can have all the balance up here. That's all good. If they have no kind of foot mobility, then the rest kind of falls through.
Oh, interesting. Does that also go with the balance piece?
Yep. And then I'll do like single leg. What I like to do is I actually usually combine balance and strength at the same time because usually I only have really 30 minutes with them, so I try to be super efficient. So I'll do a lot of strengthening while in single leg stance because then it's like they're strengthening the one side, but they're also balancing on the other side, and then I'll even make it that there's a chair like I always tell them, like have a chair next to you and use it if you want to do more strengthening so you can kind of push yourself, and then use it less if you want to challenge your balance.
Interesting. And are these classes individualized for the person, or is it kind of just in general by their feel? Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah. And at least for me, like back when we used to do like in person, there was usually like a moderate, like a low intensity and then a moderate intensity. So at least like people had that option. But I noticed that a lot of times people would pick classes based on just their own availability, not necessarily on what the actual class title said.
Gotcha. And for the balance, sorry, I'm just going on a tangent here.
Okay, go
But
for it.
for the balance, is that linked to kind of like vestibular system, like deterioration, or is it kind of like lack of practice from not being active?
Both. Like
Yep,
I think a lot of times if you're not really paying attention, your balance starts to go down, but it's just because there's like a lot of things involved. Even things such as doing exercise with your eyes closed. Like I always kind of notice that. Like sometimes somebody would say this exercise is way too easy. I was like, okay, fine, close your eyes. And then they're like the whole like I was like, oh my God, okay, never mind. I was like, yeah.
Interesting. Thank you.
Welcome. But Carrie or Katie, how about you guys?
Yeah, so I agree. Every kind of class is different depending on the instructor or the organization. So for my part-time job, we try and hit sort of like all aspects of fitness. So our organization is called Safe Zone, and the SAFE actually stands for strength, agility, flexibility, and endurance. So we kind of use that as almost like a theme, and we try and make sure we hit all of those different aspects. But I would say for me personally as an instructor, I do a lot of what was already said with like the lower body, a lot of lower body strengthening, and then mixing the balance in there as well. I try and do kind of a even amount of both of those things. And then same thing, I might have, if we're doing upper body strengthening, for our classes, we use just like a TheraBand and then just a ball. So if someone's doing, say, like a tricep extension, I might have them stand in like a heel to toe stance while they do that, so that they're doing upper body strength at the same time as their balance a little bit. And then, yeah, I throw in some things with like eyes closed, head turns, that kind of thing. So for those ones, we try and just do, it is a group class, so it's not really specific to anyone's particular goals. It's just sort of more geared at overall fitness and maintaining their health. But we make it fun and everyone seems to really enjoy it. When we were back in person, we had 8 instructors in about 24 locations in and around Brant County, and we had like 700 participants. Not quite the same since we moved online, but it was a really, really big program. And then through my business, I'm currently in the midst of developing like a 12-week falls prevention program that is just a one-on-one program. So for that kind of thing, it would be more customized to the specific person, their goals and their needs, that kind of thing. But would have sort of the same basis, hitting on, balance, lower body strength, just overall fitness, that kind of thing. And then education too is a big part of it. So with the program I'm developing, I send them like kind of like an education curriculum that it like drips out as they go through the program. And then during the classes, I know myself and my fellow instructors, as they're maybe going through their exercises, we try and just throw out little pieces of information too. They really, really like that. So the more education you can give them, the better.
That's great. That's great. Well, we're going to want to see that 12-week program when you get it finished.
I will just say the education piece, just be
Yeah.
very careful, because I remember there was like one instructor, she filled in for me once, and then when I came back, they're like, oh my God, that girl will not stop talking. Like, we're just here to exercise and she will not stop talking.
Yeah,
like,
if you're doing a group class, I say usually for the group classes, I usually say like just throw like one like maybe small piece, like that only takes like a few minutes to talk about. You don't want to be rambling for like 10 minutes, because then they're kind of like, okay, like let's go. Come on, we're here.
Usually like I'll do something like while they're doing one exercise, I'll explain like why we're doing this, or like you know, like something like that. So it's just like you got to be careful with like throwing out the education, because seniors are very very honest and very blunt.
Yes.
I don't have time to waste. Like, let's just get to the point.
And they can do more than I think a lot of people realize, because I've had people like I don't take it easy on my participants like within safety reason, but I had like when I first started teaching, I was a little bit like more shy and wasn't like, I was still kind of getting used to things, and I had people coming to me and saying like, you know, great class, like you're doing great, but like we're old, but we're not old, like we can be pushed a little further. So like they really want to be pushed. They don't want to be doing like things that are fairly easy for them.
That's adorable.
There's a physiotherapy education place in the States, and they always say hashtag old, not weak. I think that's
very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. And I forgot what else I was going to say. Well, the other thing I was going to say, other than the other thing I forgot, with balance, I always tell my clients, like, it's not about whether you can stand on one leg and hold perfectly still. It's about how you regain your balance if you do lose it. Exactly. So like I'm not looking for someone to stand perfectly still for 10 seconds. What I want to see is that there is a little bit of wavering, but they're able to come back to balance and not fall over or have to put their foot down. And I find that a lot of my clients don't intuitively think of balance like that.
Yeah.
And usually like in my like education stuff, I'll just talk to them about, don't be necessarily afraid of falling. Like just because you fall doesn't necessarily mean that like you'll have a fracture. And like one of the points of the exercise is to tell your muscles to get stronger, your bones get stronger. So to just kind of like reinforce them that you're not just doing this you know, for the sake of falls prevention. It's like, no, here's actually like how it helps, so that even if you do have a fall, your bones aren't necessarily going to be as brittle as they would if you were kind of relatively sedentary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Mary Jane, what kind of clients did you used to work with, and are you looking to change direction, or are you thinking about delving deeper into that same population again?
So the clinic that I worked at, we saw everything. We worked with WSIB, MVA, a lot of private clients, a lot of sport rehab. It was really a lot of everything.
Yeah.
And I live in a small town in a rural area. So I don't think that I'm going to be able to focus on just one specific area. But seniors is definitely something I've thought about. So this has been a helpful conversation so far.
You'll be surprised at how many people come out of the woodwork and you define a niche, because they're looking for you. They just don't know you exist. And then you come out and say, I specialize in falls prevention exercises for people over 65. And they're like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to find you for like 10 years. So
And if it is a small town, I would just say like look into the demographics and see like what your senior population is, or like kids, working adults. That could help too.
Yeah, it is. There's definitely a high senior population here.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And if you think about small towns, they're just very attractive to people who are older.
Yeah.
They're ready to get out of the city. They want to check out and slow their lifestyle down a little bit. And they still want to remain vital and vibrant and members of the community, but in a different way. So it's it's a lovely population to work with. It really, really is. I was telling you about the 93-year-old client I saw at 4:30, and I walked through the door of his condo, and I didn't even bend forward to take my shoes off. And he says, I don't think this is going to work. We're going to try it for a few sessions. And if we don't get anywhere, no hard feelings, but I'm not doing this anymore. And I said, Hi, Bill. So nice to see you after so long. How about we sit and chat for a minute before you make any decisions? And then by the end of the session, he was lovely. He said that his wife would have really appreciated me, appreciated knowing that I was working with him. And he was thrilled to know that he could do exercises sitting in a chair. And as Katie and I spoke about this weekend, there's a ton of balance exercises you can do seated. So he's going to be a pretty interesting cat to work with. So he had no idea that he could exercise while seated. I don't know why he thought that, because I exercised with his wife seated, lying down and standing as well, but he can't stand very much. And so here you have a very high powered retired lawyer who is embarrassed by the fact that at 93, 6 months ago, he had to start using a walker and he's crushed. And I've said, don't worry about it. We've got you. No one has to see us doing our thing. And I can easily work on ankle mobility while you're sitting, and then quadricep strength while you're sitting. And there's tons of things we can do. And well, that remains to be seen, but you can prove yourself, I'm sure. Okay, okay. Gauntlet's been thrown. Let's go. So yeah, I'm not worried about it at all. It should be a lot of fun. So
Yeah,
it's
and I think
amazing.
like if you are planning on being in business or working with seniors, or I guess both, yeah, thick skin. You're gonna need a thick skin.
Yeah.
Because again, like they'll be honest and like they think they're being nice or they're being gentle, and I'm just like, that really hurts. So
They're just straight.
I remember I had a presentation once and for falls prevention, and it was in a retirement home, and then like 10 minutes into the presentation, somebody like heckles me, and I'm just like, I still have 40 minutes to go. So I was just like, oh my God, it was so hard. And then just like based on the comment she made, I was trying so hard not to do that, but it was something I was doing subconsciously, and I was just like, oh my God, this is so tough. But it was a really big learning experience. Like it sucked at the moment, but at least like it was helpful. And I think that is one of the things I actually do appreciate working with seniors, is I feel like you actually grow quite a bit because they will tell you if something is wrong.
Yeah, they don't go quietly into the good night, that's for sure. Which is good. I love straight shooters. Let's not waste any time. If I could provide better services for you, different services, let me know. That's what I'm here for. So if you're not happy, tell me. I'd really appreciate it. So I was just gonna say, Katie, I love the acronym business name idea. What a great way to explain what you do. Come up with an acronym, and then that explains each component of your business. So I thought that was really clever. I didn't realize that's what the program was called.
Yeah, that's like not my personal business, but I'm not sure if it was my supervisor or who came up with that name. But yeah,
Yeah,
I agree, it's pretty clever.
yeah. And it could be something simple like Katie's fall prevention services or something. I mean, you could just do something so obvious because it's appreciated. People are like, oh, that's exactly what I'm going to get. This is great. So, or just have, a tagline that just clearly brands you as, you work with this population in this area of kinesiology. They're like, oh, thank gosh, I don't have to dig through your website to find out what you do. I'm sure you're very likable. I'm sure you're very good at what you do, but I just want to find out whether you're for me, and whether I should spend the time to do an assessment with you. So don't don't give me all the verbiage before you tell me what it is you're really good at, or how you're going to benefit me, actually. Yeah. So Catherine, when you're working with your clients, are you finding clients that you really enjoy working with, or are you still, I mean, you're brand new, you're just going, here's the buffet, oh my gosh. But are you, even after a few months, are you finding certain clients or certain parts of the rehab process that you're really enjoying?
Yeah, I've like really been enjoying the GLAD program and working with the arthritis patients, which is why. So it was actually like John who suggested I take this bone fit, but the more I learn about it, I'm like, oh, this would definitely be something I'd be interested in, because a lot of people in the GLAD program have had like fractures before and struggle with osteoporosis as well. So even just like seeing some clients in front of me, I'm like, oh, I can think of other things I can do with you. This is great. I've actually also had the chance to work with like a man who's in a wheelchair, and he has like dystonia and like just really struggles with like movement patterns and stuff. So I think I do like the older adults, but I've definitely also grown a interest in like more, I don't know if it's called rehab, or like working with people with disabilities and things like that. So
Yeah, like neurological rehab, it sounds like.
yeah.
Yeah. It's a super challenging area to work in. The complexity is really fascinating.
Yeah, there's just so many layers of like, some days are great, some days are a struggle. Like you never know what he's gonna come in and be like. So but it's been really rewarding though, and cool to see how much you can actually progress. So it's been cool.
Oh, that's great. Oh, so I sense you're feeling fulfilled right out of the gate here.
Yeah, right now, for sure.
That's good. That's really good. Nice. What are some ways that you're getting the message out to the public about what you do? Are you helping an employer with the message? Are you advertising on your own to particular client groups? What are some of the tactics and strategies that are working to get clients through your doors?
Well, for me, I've been doing quite a bit on Instagram, and I think with the fascial stretch therapy, that's where a few of my clients have actually found me. Well, I shouldn't say a few. One found me, and then she recommended me to her friend, and then she recommended to her friend.
Okay,
So
that's great.
cascades like that.
Yeah.
But the Instagram, I feel like, is a really good portal to people where you can show them what you do, how you do it, who you are, all that stuff. And even with the seniors, so I work with like not 65, but more like 75 to 100. So they're a little bit more up there in age, so they're not so much with the technology. So when I'm on Instagram promoting my senior wellness or neuro rehab, things like that, I'm looking at it like I'm talking to the kids of the people I want to see.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. I think that's a really clever strategy. I went for a walk with my in-laws who are in their mid-80s today, and they don't think they're very tech savvy, but they are pretty tech savvy. And so my mother-in-law says, we don't have Instagram or Facebook, right? And I said, no. I said, Eve, my father-in-law, he has a Facebook account, but you don't have a Facebook account. She goes, how do I see cats of Instagram? Because I show her cats of Instagram. And I said, every time I come over, once or twice a week, we can sit and scroll. She goes, I would love that. I said, okay. I said, we can set up an Instagram account. We can just post photos of the dog and the cottage. She goes, really? And I hear my father-in-law say, nope, from the other room, because she's going to say, can you help me with this? And he's going to say, no. So anyway, they're very curious because they hear about it all. So it's a very, very good idea to market to the kids who are, my age. We're in our 50s now. And so we're looking at our in-laws thinking, okay, what kind of care could we help them with? How do we introduce them to the option of possibly considering the possibility of maybe having someone come in to help them exercise, and that's a very delicate thing. Are you saying I'm not functioning very well? Are you saying I'm getting old? You know, how do you talk to them about this? But if you can show them how enjoyable it is to move their bodies and the huge range of exercises that can accomplish all these various goals that they may have, then it's really, really rewarding for them. So it's a very, very good idea to actually look at a generation earlier than the clients that you're trying to reach. Danny, reaching kids, you're actually going to be looking to reach their parents, right? So it's the reverse. So if you want to have kids in your practice, then you're going to be focusing on the parents. And then if you are looking for the older adults, then you're looking at their kids. So that sandwich generation is the population 45 to 65 is where you're 65 or 70 even is where you're looking. That's your audience for all kinds of different referrals. So finding out where they are, and they're mostly Facebook. They're not particularly Instagram, not like my Western interns who are like, I don't have Facebook. So if I need to join your connected kinesiologist group, do I need a Facebook account? Yes, you do. Okay, I've never done that before. I'm like, oh man, okay. It's a different world. So spending time with your clients and showing them Facebook and showing them things that you think they'd appreciate on Instagram means that they talk to their kids about it, and then their kids start looking. So you could show them fun posts that you've done on Instagram. They love that. And then they tell their kids, oh, look up Angela's account. And then, you know, they'll see pictures of dogs and cats and all kinds of stuff. So um, now, keeping in mind, though, that according to our regulatory college, we're not permitted to friend our clients on social media, right? So my clients often hint, I can't find you on Facebook, or I really wanted to connect with you on Facebook, and I, you know, have to politely steer the conversation in another direction. So we can't friend our clients. It's just not something we're able to do. So we're speaking about what our exercise sessions would look like, but we're not connecting with people to do any messaging or anything like that on Facebook or Instagram. A little walk the line there. So Carrie's Instagram I love because I think it's really creative. She does funny, funny things, which I think your sense of humor is amazing because it's light. It's you're showing people your personality, which is sometimes more important than your content because they're thinking, I can really relate to this person. So whether she's doing a fun dance, whether she is showing an exercise that might be part of her favorite exercise programs, people see you over time and you become this relatable personality, and they can start to make the leap to, you know, I really should get in touch with her because she just looks like she's having so much fun, and that's what I need. I don't want to take this exercise self-care thing too seriously. So thinking about, sorry, Carrie, you were going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say thank you. That's a very big compliment. But yeah, and just touching on the personality thing, yeah, like I could be the best kinesiologist in the entire world, but if I am not very personable, I don't have a good bedside manner, my clients are not going to stay with me. If they don't like me, they're going to be like, the heck with you. I'm going to go find somebody that's nice to me and like that we have a connection with. So I think you see Annie, you were saying that you make connections with your clients, and I think that's a big part of it. Like my clients and we talk about their families and their past in their past and all that kind of stuff. I remember in one of the retirement homes I used to work in as a PTA, one of the ladies I was seeing, she used to play on one of the first softball teams in Canada. So going through all of that, I thought that was just so interesting because I had like just graduated. I did sport history, so like I knew like the story, and so getting her perspective and things like that was very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, That's one of my favorite things about working with older adults is the stories are incredible. My client today was in tears talking about his wife, and I wanted him to talk about his wife because I hadn't seen them since she had passed away, and so uh, I said, "You have an anniversary coming up," and he said, "Yes, she passed away 3 weeks before our 70th wedding anniversary." And I said, "What is your best advice for a long-term successful marriage?" And he said, "Oh, so a marriage not like ours." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "You have to be each other's best friend, which means you have to know when to step away and when to step to." And he said, "It's a lot more stepping away than people think. You have to let people be their own person." And and I thought that was very interesting because they both had huge personalities. And I often said, "You guys need like an extra bedroom in this place." So that's one of the things I love about working with older adults is this side of wisdom and stories and history. Of course, history, but yeah, it's pretty remarkable, pretty interesting. And they're up for anything. They'll do anything. They'll try anything. They're not embarrassed that their body doesn't move this way or that way. They're like, "Why doesn't it go? And how can we make it go?" And so, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's pretty good. So what other techniques have you used? Anyone else have any other strategies that they might have used to find clients? I mean, I know a lot of us um, get probably the biggest, as Carrie was mentioning, is word of mouth. So you find this portal and then the rest just starts to take care of itself. But has anyone encountered that and had success in using that approach?
I can just speak to like my parents. Like both my parents have very niche businesses. Like my dad, he it's always hard to explain. He works with Jewish catering companies and provides the waiters to do home kind of celebrations.
Yeah.
So it's very, very niche, like Jewish catering waiters, because a lot of waiters don't know the customs, and the Jewish faith is very, very strict. So I guess, yeah, because he's become a name in that kind of community, it's now almost like synonymous. Like, oh yeah, you need a group or you're having an event. Okay, yeah, you obviously like you hire his team because they're one of the only groups that will be like the waiters that will know about your culture. And the last thing you want is somebody to come in and mix up things that like might not seem obvious if you're not part of that culture.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's a pretty niche market, isn't it?
I know. And then even like my mom, her particular business, yeah, at this point, she's practically working 7 days a week, even with COVID, but it's just because she's developed such a reputation of like, people trust her and there's like, no, like, we're not going to go through an organization. We really like her because she's done such great work.
Wow, what kind of work does she do?
Well, she's a house cleaner.
Oh, wow.
But
So,
considering the fact that like, you're basically handing your keys to a complete stranger,
sure.
it becomes, a lot of people don't want to hire somebody off the internet.
Yeah.
And usually companies do charge an arm and a leg. So she's got quite a client list at this point.
That's great. Wow. And 7 days of work, a week of that kind of work, that's hard.
During COVID.
Physically very hard. During COVID, yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. That's something. So yeah, word of mouth in any business is going to be the way to go. And has anyone ever asked their clients for referrals?
I've never asked my clients for referrals, but I will. So when I first see a client, I give them like my price list, which is on its own piece of paper with my logo nice and big, and all my information's on one side and my prices are on the other side. And I say, "Yep, just put this on your fridge and my info is there just in case you need it." And then, if anybody comes in and they're like, "Oh, who's that?" then you can just tell them right away. And the word of mouth is like testimonials that aren't posted anywhere. So like I prefer word of mouth. because I'm going into people's homes.
Yeah.
So it's, me going into their home, that's a big deal for me, but it's also a big deal for them. So if it's by word of mouth, so like I know this client and this client has referred this other person, so now I know that that new person isn't creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like pre-vetting, right? For both parties. This person can be trusted. You need them to come and work with you. Or they'll say, I'm referring you to this person. Here's how we know them. And you're like, okay, great. That's really good. Yeah. Yeah. I have
I guess
tried.
like the other thing when it comes to branding is people always want to like maximize and like advertise to everybody. The problem is if you advertise to everybody, you attract nobody. So people worry about being like, I want to work with like senior women with knee replacements. And there's like, oh, that's like so few women. I was like, yeah, but once you get known in that world, doctors get to know you, hospitals get to, if you can really build a name for yourself, it gets to the point where like, if you think of a lot of brands, like when you go to like, if you need a tissue, you get a Kleenex. And at this point, like it's become synonymous. And if you do really, really well in your business kind of brand management, that could potentially happen for that particular population.
I was just looking for Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, and it's in my file here somewhere. I know exactly where it is in my Simon Sinek department, but he takes you through an exercise where you dive deeper and deeper into what are you all about? Why do you want to do what you do? Why do you want to work with this particular client base? And eventually you're distilling such a very distinct message that you think, oh, there it is. You clear away all the noise and all the fluff. And after all the talking, you realize, well, that's exactly what I am doing. Yes, but you never said it that way before. You never said, okay, I'm putting a flagpole in the ground and advertising to the world to say, this is what I'm all about. I was going to say, Mary Jane, that in a small town, I started my business in a small town in Bancroft in like, what year was it? 1996 or something. And there was no internet. So I was getting my printed business cards and my rate card, which had my services on it. So I'd get the two of them together and march around to every doctor's office with lunch. And so I would take lunch I'd phone the receptionist. I'm bringing the doctor lunch. What time would be good for me to drop by? They were like, okay, drop by with lunch and then just leave the rate card in my business card and say, when you have a minute and you'd like me to bring you another lunch, let me know because I want to tell you exactly the kind of patients that would make great clients for me. And they were like, thank gosh, because they don't know where to send people. But if you say, here's exactly what I do, and these are the people that I want you to send me, you're just making their job easier. So I went to the physiotherapist in the hospital, the 9 physicians in town. I went to the dentists because they see health issues as well, the massage therapists, the insurers, the brokers, all the brokers in town. I went to the banks and asked because they know a lot of stuff in a small town. I couldn't bank in my small town. Didn't you just make a deposit earlier this morning? And I was like, oh my gosh, my business accounts are going in the next town over. So every Friday I drive for half an hour to do my business banking, drive half an hour back to my town. So had to be pretty careful. But I went to kind of different places to look for referrals. Hair salons, anywhere where there's opportunity for conversations. Um, that's what I did, and it was fun.
I was going to kind of suggest something similar too. Like one thing I was planning on doing until COVID hit was going to like just spots that seniors frequently hit. So certain hair salons, like curling rinks, certain restaurants, things like that. And just, put up, if you have a flyer, maybe put up a flyer and just talk to the staff there and, or even just eat lunch there. And maybe you can start a
Yes.
conversation with some of the seniors. Yeah. Just
Yeah,
casually bump into some people.
exactly. It's if you develop this routine of this is where you get your coffee, this is where you buy your Friday night dinner, this is where you do what you do, people start chatting. What is it you do? And then there's a local Italian ready-made food place close to, it's in an area of Toronto that is very Jewish. So they do a lot of catering and a lot of things for the conservative Jews, not the Orthodox Jews, because it's not a kosher catering company, but they know a lot of people in the area. So when you go in there and you start talking with them, they're asking, what do you do? You just saw clients in the area, yes. And I briefly described basically who my clients are. So this is their age group, this is the kind of exercises we do. And then sure enough, you go back and I was just telling someone about you. Can you leave me some of your cards? Yes. So if you have habits and people that you're always chatting to, it's going to happen very, very easily.
And I would also say, keep in mind the kind of client you don't want, because
Yes.
that actually happened to somebody I know where they essentially started a business, but their first client they ever had basically destroyed them. The
Oh,
client
no.
kept making them come back and redo the job several times over. And then it basically took up like, it was like a construction thing. So like it took up his entire summer just fixing that one client. So it is important to just think about like the clients you don't want as well.
Mhm. So what might you do if you discover, oops, I am not gelling with this particular client? So first of all, how might you tell that you're not gelling with a particular client? What might tell you that things are not really going your way? What might you notice?
I would say lack of progress. Like if you've been
Yeah.
working with them for a while and there's just no change happening, or
Mhm.
maybe if you tell them to do something and they do something that's the complete opposite, like I didn't tell you to do that, like that sort of thing, kind of rebelling. And
Mhm.
then I would say like to answer the other part, like to mitigate, I would probably send them to someone else that you know, like kind
Mhm.
of going with the network. If you know someone that they could potentially gel with, even if it's not you, that's okay, but kind of just giving them someone who could help them.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's always a good thing to have in your back pocket for sure, is that other person. So it's a very good point. If you're not noticing progress, that could be something. If there's a bit of pushback about what you're reasonably asking for them to do for homework or follow through for you. If you have a sense of anxiety or dread before you go to see the client, or you get up in the morning and you think, listen to that. If a client is rude to you, if a client is super challenging, story we had with one of the consultants that used to work with us was a client just kept him waiting at the front door while he finished making his smoothie. It took a couple of phone calls, and the client was, and the kinesiologist were like, I didn't know what to do because I was supposed to spend an hour with him. And I said, yeah, the client was disrespecting your time. We'll find someone else to work with them. And when what we did was we made it very challenging to have a kinesiologist available at the time he wanted to train. I'm sorry. But we referred him to other friends of mine who owned a fitness center that was 2 blocks from his home. So he had to walk. He didn't have someone coming to him, but it was better than to have him on our roster as a client with a company. So don't be afraid to make those decisions quickly because they'll drain your energy and you need that energy for better clients. So better to have a bit of a hole in your schedule and say to the universe, 3 to 4 on Tuesdays, please, than occupying 5 hours of your day worried about having to see this client every week. It's not worth it. Or you could change your rates slightly, letting them know that in January your rates are changing too. Now they'd have to change for all of your clients, and that may be what's going to happen. But some clients are extremely price sensitive, and if you start making noise that this is your annual time for review and you're thinking about changing your rates, that may be a time to find them someone else to work with who has a lesser hourly rate than you have. So there's some things that you can very graciously, politely do that will save your energy for someone who you'd really rather work with. Yep, it happens a lot.
And then
But
just
you want to be,
if you're thinking of business, I always recommend Jim Collins' books.
yeah,
Built to Last is really, really good. It's just basically a study. He studies businesses, what makes them successful, and it gives really, really good tips on things that you should do, like right from the get-go, so that as you grow, it kind of grows with you, as opposed to trying to frantically create things as you're growing.
hmm I read Good to Great, but I need to read Built to Last. Thank you.
And How the Mighty Fall.
Right, that's his other one. Yeah, yeah. So that's another good point that we can end on this evening is start your business with the end in mind, which no one does ever. Think about where do you want to end up with your business? And you don't have to know exactly, but what kind of hours would you like to work? What kind of ideal clients would really satisfy you? How many days a week would you like to work? And plan for that, as Christiane said. So if you're building a company to last, and you want to make sure that maybe you're setting up a solid group practice so that you're not running all over town and you're having online group classes. It means you're teaching a lot less than you would be one-on-one clients. Think about your energy there. Think about maybe developing that 8, 10, 12-week educational component course that they can follow as you're teaching them the activity side of the business. Collaborate with another kin or another healthcare professional so that you can combine your services. Maybe one likes to do group classes, one wants to do some one-on-one, but you really would work well together, co-branding an Instagram um, channel or feed, and maybe you offer some joint education together, something like that. So collaboration can make the world a much more pleasant, fun place to be. You don't have to do it alone. Alone is fun because you can do what you like, but know that you can reach out to anybody and with an idea and just pitch it and see if someone says, "Oh, I've been waiting for someone who'd like to do that with me." It's easier. It's easier to do as a team. So, any other comments? Are we helping you make decisions, Mary Jane?
Yeah, I'm
Good,
like thinking nonstop here as everyone's talking.
good, good.
Yeah.
What are the
I
things
guess
that,
so, Angela. I guess start with why and Built to Last. We're gonna
yeah,
be two good books.
yeah, really, really good books. The other one I always harp about is called Atomic Habits.
Guys, I just finished that one.
Did you? By James Clear. And Atomic Habits talks about behavior change in tiny, tiny, tiny pieces and taking a big monster task. I want to start a new practice and breaking that list down into micro points so that you have a really long list of tasks, but they're really doable because they're so small. And then you put a very manageable 2 to 3 micro points into every day so that you've just got little things and you're like, that wasn't so bad. I could start on tomorrow's task. No, you can't. That's for tomorrow. And you sort of spread out the big projects because starting and running your own gig is can be energy draining and the what ifs are massive and may keep you up at night. So just take your time and just write a lot. Write your thoughts out, write your ideas down and they'll refine themselves every time you do them. And then like Carrie's doing, tell the world about them because they become more real and you actually define them in the moment while you're trying to figure out what to say. So it's real. I love seeing people just try and experiment with ideas through Instagram or Facebook. I just think it's so much fun to see them trying new things. It's just great. Any other questions or comments? All right, next week we have Victoria Galetta with us, who's going to talk about aquatic therapy. Maybe aquatic therapy with people who are balance challenged, stability challenged, might be a really interesting niche. So that would be something that you can speak with her about next week. She'll tell you all about her business, and it's new. I think it's only in its second year, maybe the beginning of its third year. So she's just started to do this and loves it, really, really enjoys it. Works in community pools and private pools with quite a range of people, mostly older adults, I believe. So that will be a lot of fun. So I hope to see you next week if you can make it. And we'll just post this recording in the group so that you can go back and think about it all over again.
Mhm.
Thanks, everybody. If you have any comments anytime, just drop them into the group. Please don't hesitate for a second about putting out questions. Thanks to all of you who've asked questions. Doesn't matter how big or how small. There's a lot of people in the group that you will never hear from, but they're contacting me about your posts, which is really cool because I'm like, I didn't realize you saw it. And they're like, we watch all of it, all of it. And I don't hear from them for 6 months. And then they pop up knowing all kinds of things about the posts that they like. So just know that there's a lot of people watching us there, and pretty interesting group of people from around the world. We've got some interesting people from Japan, from Spain, from Brazil, Costa Rica who are watching. So yeah, very interesting. And please refer all your friends because the more the better. All right, have a great evening and hope to see you next week.
You
Bye,
too. Mary
everybody.
Jane, let us know what
Take
you
care.
end up going with.
Yeah.
Super
Yeah.
curious to
Yep.
know.
We're gonna start calling you out. Random message
Yeah.
to Mary Jane. Bye, everybody.
Bye.